Nebraska Entertainment Monthly, aka NEAM. I'm here today with our guest, Jake Vest. He is the owner and operator of Vest Visuals.
That's right.
Yeah, so thank you for coming on today.
Of course, man.
Today we're just gonna talk with you a little bit about like your journey, how you got started, what you're doing right now, some of the challenges and things. So,
Sure.
like, if you want to just go ahead and tell us how you got started and what your company does.
Yeah. So I'm the owner of Vest Visuals. I moved back to Omaha about 7 years ago or so, 2017. When I moved back here, I went full-time freelance. I was originally going to school. I had graduated college, worked out of a agency out of Boulder, and I was working with Backpacker Magazine, Yoga Journal, and a bunch of other plethora outdoor magazines. And then when I moved here, I decided, it was either find a job with someone else or do it on my own. And so I went full-time freelance, 2017. It was a struggle, but now I'm here 7 years in and I'm doing well. So.
Yeah, I know from experience that like doing the freelance job is kind of like it's rough to start off. Like
sure.
It's always tough. And I assume, like you said, you had a little bit of a struggle bus at the beginning, and now you're kind of like getting in the flow of things.
Yeah.
So like, when did you start like Vest Visuals and things?
So I started Vest Visuals right when I moved back to Omaha, 2017.
Okay.
That's when I decided I need to invest in my own equipment. I need to invest into my sales techniques. I need to understand just what it is to be a video production company and a business operator. Like I came from just wanting to create and not really having any understanding of like how to turn it into profit, right? So on top of that, like I didn't really go to school for video production. I went to school for visual effects and motion graphics. So my future, in hindsight, was supposed to be sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours a day, with a company that has 500 employees or so on. So now that I'm in a position where I'm having to figure it out for myself, I'm spending a lot of time on YouTube. I'm spending a lot of time reading books and talking to people, just trying to figure out like how do I get the right rate for myself. How do I even negotiate a project? Do I write a pitch or do I just cold call people? So yeah.
Yeah. So like when you're in your experience so far with Vest Visuals, like what was the hardest thing that you had to overcome like starting up? Was it like getting gear, or was it like finding clients, or
a plethora of those things, but I think for me, since I am a creative, the hardest thing was just selling myself. Like I could care less about trying to sell an idea and how great it is. I just want to do it, care less of who thinks about what. So at the end of the day, if I could figure out how to sell myself, like that was going to be the biggest bridge that makes the gap, right?
Yeah. Selling yourself is hard.
Yes.
Like as a creator myself, I know selling myself is the biggest thing. I'm just now getting the idea of knowing how to sell myself and how to like present the information about myself as a creator and as a contractor and a freelancer myself. So like I understand that. So like what tips would you give to like people when it comes to selling themselves?
Confidence is obviously a huge thing, and with confidence, in order to get there, like you got to be feeling good about yourself, right? So whatever path that is for you, for me, it's like I got to be consistent with eating good, working out, dressing good so that I feel good when I walk into a situation, right? Because I was also that young 20-year-old kid that didn't care what I looked like when I walked into a situation, and very much got judged on that situation. And now I'm losing jobs, I'm losing opportunities, So the confidence comes in, and then also just being able to put yourself out there, like overcome the voice in your head that says like, I don't want to do this today, overcome the like, these people are going to think I'm this or that, right? You just got to be yourself, put yourself out there. And then as you do that more, it becomes more natural to just strike up a conversation or to tell someone what you think rather than trying to just hold it in all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Like that, I would say the same thing. Like that was the thing that I have to do. Like I just recently started going to more out events and things because in my early 20s it was like I would go out all the time, but I didn't go out to actually do anything. I just went out to have fun.
Yes.
And then when I went out to LA myself to do film work and things, I was always going to networking events, but I didn't know how to network in those events. I just was talking to people. I'd get a bunch of business cards and I'd be like, okay, now what do I do?
Right. Yeah. How do you talk the talk? You know,
Yeah.
especially when you're first starting, you kind of feel like an imposter a bit. But you do, you know, you just keep trying to learn and you keep trying to involve that conversation with the next person and so on. It just is kind of a stepping stair to the next thing.
Yeah. So in operating the business nowadays, what is like the biggest thing that you're looking to try and overcome?
Now that I've gotten myself to a point where I've gotten my equipment, I've gotten a skill set, I've understand the talk, right? Now it's growth, like taking it to the next level, whether that's getting another employee underneath me, whether that's a subcontractor, someone I pay full time, and then getting the work that makes sense for the amount of employees that I want to bring on, you know, because we all do one-man band stuff at first, right? And I think we all get to a point where we want to phase out of that because our ideas are much bigger than a one-man band is capable of. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. In regards to like Nebraska itself, like how has it been for you, like working with professionals in Nebraska, like different companies and things? Have you like run into any issues, or like what would you say is the biggest obstacle for Nebraskan working in Nebraska?
From my perspective, the biggest obstacle is just finding the work that is profitable and that's coming here locally, you know, because for me, half of my business is out of the state, you know, and if I want to work here locally, the biggest determining factor is, do you have my budget, right? Can you pay for what I'm worth? And then also being able to find the people, the talent, right, that can make the job done. Can I find those people?
Yeah.
To make it work? Because there's some small video production companies that do great on their own, but then all of us freelancers are kind of doing it by ourselves. So how can we get together and do more of that?
And that's what we need really in Nebraska. Would you
Yes.
think? Like, it's like someplace for us all to get together and like talk about stuff. Be like, hey, you want to do this? I want to do this. We got the stuff. Let's do it.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
And that's what I agree with you on that. That's like the thing that I've had trouble with as well, is like getting people the freelance and the work together so that we can work together and get it done.
Yeah, like I've been on quite a few shoots with different video productions around the country, and one that stuck out to me was in St. Louis, and they have their small team of videographers and cinematographers and directors, and they have their video production company. And there's a small team of audio guys, and they have their audio company. And there's a small team of post guys, and they have their post company. And they all three use each other, you know. And it's this beautiful choreographed, you know, video production of like it bounces from one person to the next, and we're all within our little bubble, but we're working together.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like stay in your lane, but also know that you have to talk to other people in other lanes.
Yeah, we need these other people to build this up, right? We can't have anything full service if we don't have the other people that, you know, are focused on what they're doing.
Yeah. And like making sure that the people that we work with are actually knowing what they're doing and talented enough and willing to actually go the extra mile, like we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
About like one of the big things that we were discussing earlier is finding editors, because editors in Nebraska is kind of hard to find right now. Like people that are actually passionate about editing. Because you can get people who can do the job, but like you don't want somebody who's just gonna pay. You could pay, and then they just cut it together real quick, and you have a basic thing. You want somebody who's gonna go a little bit above and beyond, just to like get the little passion behind it, so that you get stuff that you might not have thought about.
Yes. Yeah, and you wonder, how do you do that, right? Like, most people, when they get a job, they're there to just complete it. They're not there to go over and beyond. So how do you get someone interested in, like, you know, taking their own initiative and being curious? You can't. I personally, I think that subcontractors might struggle with that because they're just there for the one-off, maybe, you know. But if you can find someone like an employee or a subcontractor that's long term and really show them like, hey, we're in it for the long haul together. You aren't just someone I throw my editing to. You are a friend. We're here for a relationship. So you need an extra $250 to get you through the week, and I can help you out on this edit, even though it doesn't demand it, right? I'm gonna do that because then maybe next time you take this edit and you're like, I really have this idea. I want you to let me off the leash, essentially.
Yeah.
And that then maybe creates an opportunity for subcontractors or other people to take it to the next level when you don't even anticipate it.
Exactly, and that's like one thing that I like about working in Nebraska and working with people in Nebraska is we're kind of like family oriented.
Yes, yeah.
Very much so. So like when you think about how we work together, we are kind of more of a family. And I know that a lot of times you have dysfunctional families, and kind of like we're kind of a dysfunctional family right now that's still getting stuff done.
Yep.
But like I feel like we have the ability as like a group, as like a community, to like come together and actually expand and work together and help each other like really perfect the craft that we all have.
Right.
Because we have tons of talented people here who have been doing it for a long time. And then you have a lot of young people that are starting like to come into it and wanting to actually do stuff.
Yes.
And like getting people together is a good thing. And like having you on today is very good because we could talk about it, and we have a company that's willing to come and talk with all of us about it.
For sure. I mean, it's the responsibility is on us.
Yeah.
You know, to create a platform or create a space that allows for other people to learn and grow. I personally like Nebraska is not for me, but it's where I call home currently. And if I can help the people that have the same interests as I do, you know, why not?
Yeah.
Right. Like I think that's, and as I'm seeing the younger guys reach out to me, say, hey, what can I do? I'm interested in doing this. I don't know where to go. I want to now more than ever give them an opportunity, because those are the people that are going to be up in the industry when I'm at 50 years old. And
Exactly.
you know,
It's like learning to pass the torch.
yeah,
Which, unfortunately, from my experience, it's been difficult for a lot of older people in Nebraska that have been doing this for a while to pass the torch, because they have that mentality that nobody was here to help me when I was your
Sure,
age, and
yeah.
that's I think I personally, like I said, I think that's the wrong way to think about it. You should. There's a phrase that I really like. It's the difference between a hero and a villain. A villain wants everyone to go through the same thing they went through, and a hero wants people to never go through what they had to. And I feel like in order for us to move forward as a community and as like an industry, we have to start thinking about making sure that people don't have to go through the same struggles that we went through.
yes,
Especially with the way technology is going, it's getting more advanced and easier to use. We have to be able to advance with it. In the same way, like with working and the way we do things, we have to advance and evolve a little bit.
yeah. It's changing of the mindset in general, right? Because as well as with the times, like, you know, back when the guys that are, you know, in their 50s and 60s doing it now here in Nebraska is a different fight, right? It's like there's smaller community, right? So they can work with each other and getting the jobs, and they're not fighting with 100 other freelancers that are coming up trying to get the same exact gigs. But yeah, it's a different mindset. If you can tell people like we're not here to fight and feast and famine for ourselves, it's with everybody else, and then we can all build each other.
Yeah, because they say it's lonely at the top. I say it's not lonely if you move up there with everybody you like.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's hard to do,
Yeah.
but it's definitely possible to do.
Yeah, it's possible. You know, as you start working up, I think you start to realize where people's commitments are. But then, yeah, I mean, if you can find a strong enough team, I think that it's very possible to get to a point where like a lot of people are thriving off of the idea that you created this platform for everybody to have an opportunity.
Yeah. We kind of like went off on our own tangent there for a
no,
second.
you're
This
good.
completely, I loved it. It was fun. I wanted to ask one thing before like we go off on another tangent, because I know we're going to.
Sure.
You said you were looking to like expand, and like what other obstacles do you foresee possibly running into for your expansion aside from like just like finding gigs and things like that?
That's a good question. I think maybe protocol, so like as I begin to think about it more, it's easy for me as a one man band to just like go through the motions of like I got to do this, I got to do that, right? But then figuring out how to delegate that, right? Say some days I shouldn't have to go sit in my gear room and break down all my stuff and make sure it's clean and make sure it's properly organized. But if I could delegate that to somebody, that allows me to go then work somewhere else. I think then, like I said, protocol is another thing, is because once you get multiple people into the business, they all need a path, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a creative person, so I just want to do the work. And if I have to spend more of my time managing people and managing the process of it, I think for me, it might take a shift in like my desire of how much I want to be in this industry or how much I want to do. But that I said that same thing about sales. I didn't want to be a salesman, but
Yeah.
I figured out how to do it, and now it just comes more natural.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I know that one thing that, like, starting up when I was in LA, like, one of the things, I worked at a lot of equipment rental houses, and I hated it because I got to look at all this gear, but I couldn't use it for film or anything.
Sure.
So then, like, one day I had the thought, I was like, you know what? There's a lot of gear here I don't know how to use. Why don't I just talk to my boss and see if it's okay if I go through and I like get out all the gear that we have and see how it all works. And like I did that, I took notes and I cleaned it up and reorganized the whole area. And that was a good way for me to understand what gear we had to work with. So when I did have the opportunity to use the gear, I knew what gear I needed.
Yeah.
It's like the small tasks that people do that we should be delegating, we see it as mundane because we've done it so much that we know what everything is.
Yeah.
But a good thing for like new people when we bring them on to show them that stuff is to help them understand that this mundane task is going to help you understand what you're doing on the bigger tasks significantly better.
Yes, for sure. You got to get hands-on experience, and that's just feeling and touching, right?
Yeah.
Really.
And like getting hands-on is really good. Like I'm personally like not a guy who can stand and sit in front of a computer doing editing for like hours on end. I can do like maybe an hour and then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go look at something.
Right.
Other than the screen that has a bunch of stuff that I know how to do, but I'm like really aggravated.
Yeah.
And that's something that like as you were saying, you were expecting to be working for a company like with 500 employees and just looking at a screen for 12 hours.
Right.
And like I was always expecting to just boots on the ground all the time. I was like, I'm never gonna have to look at a screen. I know how to do it. I got to pass the class that I took for it. I know what I'm doing. But like, that's one thing that I'm like very impressed about, because being able to leave the editing bay and get yourself boots on the ground is, most people that I know in LA that are on the editing bay are, they're like not good at being around people.
Sure. Yeah. And some people are made differently, right? Some people belong in that editing bay and some people belong on the other side. Yeah. For me, I like a little bit of both, I get myself so involved in the creative process that I like to see how the post is going, and I like to be on the production and working with my clients to capture the magic, right? And then seeing how it's put together and then delivering it to my client, and they're like, wow, this is awesome. Like, to see how it came from just a piece of paper to now this actual product you can hold in your hand.
Yeah, and like, picture's worth 1,000 words. So when you write something down, you're like, this is going to be great. And then you go and do it, and you're like, I could do this better.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, that I might struggle with is just finding people that have enough ambition, for themselves, that you don't feel like you have to carry them, you know? Because I think that you can find a lot of help, right? It's just how much are they really helping you? How much do you have to give into them in order for the things to work out?
Exactly.
Right? So.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things we like to do here is we like to let different people take the reins and be in control of what's going on, so we don't have to have one person will set everything up and then we'll have everybody else come in and just do what they tell them. That's not how we want to do it. We want them, when they come to us with an idea for an episode, we want them to like do the footwork, and we'll help them with the footwork so they know what they're doing and help them grow as they do it. So when they come in to actually do the episode, the show that we're working on, they know what to do when they're in charge, and then everybody can just fall into the place that they need to do.
Yeah.
Like today, our friend Kale is behind the camera over there directing this one.
Howdy, Kale.
Hi, Kale. But yeah, and that's what we want. That's why I was very happy to have you on as well.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I think that what you guys are doing is very important. You know, I've had this conversation with Kale for the last like 2 years or so. It's if we can create a place where a lot of people can collaborate, you know, even if it's a hub that creatives can go to and be like, you know, I have an idea and we can match them up with the client, you know, or we have a client comes in and we can say, hey, we have the perfect director for you. This could be a good area to exploit, you know, for the industry. Now, I don't know what that means as far as like, you know, we need to get more gear houses here, or we need to have X, Y, and Z. I'm not sure, you know, what it means beyond that, but I think just that's a start, right? Is having a platform that everybody can jump onto and be like, where can I go today? Where could I be helpful?
Yeah, and oh man, brain fart.
You're good.
I agree. I like that because like one thing that we want to make sure we do is make sure that once we put out these episodes, once we have this as an established thing, we want to be able to let people come in and be creative with what they're doing because we want to share the information. Like today, we're sharing information about stories, about what we can do in your business and how you have come up and started to work on. And we want to do things like that in the future, but with a few more technical things. So like it gives creatives a chance to come in and like, hey, I have an idea for an episode. Like, hey, let's do, like you were talking about earlier, we could do a dance choreography thing. And then it gives not only the dancers a chance to play around with what their choreography and things, it also gives our crew a chance to play around with the gear that they have so they understand how creative aspects work on both sides of the camera.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like we're getting there. It's like slow. Like a good friend of mine says, everything is time.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a slow race, man.
Yeah.
It's a very slow race. Yeah, and I think too, if you could create like in this hub a way for people to have their own personal ideas to come in and be like, hey, does anybody available this weekend? I want to shoot a spec shoot, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the next step is like, we all get together. Now, how do we get the work, right? You got to start making the thing.
Yeah.
And if we can make the thing, then we can start selling it. And as many creatives as there are here, there's always one or two good talkers, right? And that can sell themselves. So if you can find that right person, then you can get that stuff out there, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like having you as one of our first people connected with us, that's going to be a very big thing because we already have one established thing. And then from here on, we can just keep bringing more people in, more people in.
Certainly.
And yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with you in the future on different things because I know you're not just coming in today to talk with us and then never seeing us again.
Right.
Like I said, everybody who comes in, we bring in because we know we're going to work with them in the future on something.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. That'd be really depressing.
I know, right?
Be like, yeah, we were talking about this. Oh yeah, I haven't seen that guy in weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the weather's warming up, so I think we'll all be outside here pretty soon.
Yeah. That's one thing about Nebraska that we forgot to mention. The weather is bipolar.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly, and we're locked into our houses for 6 months out of the year, just sitting there stewing. So
yeah, just like I got this idea, but I can't do anything until the sun comes out.
Right.
I remember a few weeks ago, it was actually really hilarious. Like it was bright, sunny, everything was nice out. I walked outside in shorts and a t-shirt, and as soon as I stepped outside, it was snowing, and the sun was shining, and there was snow. I was like, oh man,
you
Nebraska.
would think it's 100 degrees out, but
Nope. And then like 2 hours later, then the clouds came and there was no snow with them. It was like, oh, wow, okay. Glitch in the Matrix?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it makes for my industry really nice because I shoot a lot of outdoor stuff. So it gives me an opportunity to go make a fishing and hunting scene look worse than it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to thank Jake from Vest Visuals from coming in today. He has given us a lot to think about, and thank you again. Thank you very much so.
Of course,
and
man.
thank you for joining us today on NEAM, Nebraska Entertainment Monthly.
Oh yeah, dude.
There we go.
Sweet.